Howdy bowdy, Riffers. This is David Sanchez, and this is episode 68 of the Riffs or Die podcast, coming out late night on Saturday, March 26th, 2022. This episode is another swapcast. This one is with 32 Flavors of Nickweiser on YouTube. He hit me up and asked me if I would be interested in having a chat about metal and liberty. Those are two things that I am passionate about and love discussing, so I said, hell yes, let's do it. So this interview took place a few weeks ago, but there was an issue with the video file, so it was a little bit delayed coming out on my end until now. This episode does have video. If you want to see it, you got to go to YouTube because it's not anywhere else. If you do go and peep that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, all that good stuff. If you're listening to this on a podcast app, please rate the podcast and subscribe on whatever platform you like. And tell your friends and family about the show. I would really appreciate that. If you want to support beyond that, you can go to riffsordie.com, pick up some merch, or you can go to patreon.com/riffsordie to sign up as a patron. You'll have access to the monthly Zoom hangouts and get some discounts in the web store. One thing I want to mention right now, and I'll probably continue to mention this in the future, is right now we're kind of in this time, at least in the United States, where there's kind of a lull and things seem a little more calm. They're dropping mandates, they're dropping restrictions everywhere. And I just want you to think about this. I want you to think about this and urge others to consider this as well. I think right now is the time we need to ask ourselves and ask other people, if they bring mandates and restrictions back, are you going to comply again? Right now, things seem like they're all hunky-dory and we're all good to go. But I have a feeling that this is absolutely not over. Maybe I'm wrong. Hopefully I'm wrong. But if I'm not, and they do bring some of this stuff back, you need to start thinking about it right now. If they bring all that bullshit back, what are you going to do? Are you going to comply? Are you going to put up with it again? Do lockdowns and masking and showing your papers all over again? Or are you going to put your foot down and say this is a bunch of bullshit? Start thinking about that now. Start asking people. If it comes up in conversation and everyone goes, woo, I'm so glad COVID is behind us. Aren't you so glad this is all over? That's a very, very good time to bring it up and ask them. All right, what if it's not over? They bring it all back. What are you going to do? Like I said, I'll probably bring this up again in the future because I think it's really important. And we're at this really strange time. It almost seems like we're in the eye of the storm. So, moving forward, just keep that in mind. Anyway, in this talk, we had a lot of laughs. There's some good insight. I like the way that Sir Nickweiser thinks, and I like his show. It's really cool. I hope you guys dig this interview. Anyway, here is my chat with 32 Flavors of Nickweiser.
How's it going, everyone? It is Monday afternoon, and welcome to a very uniquely special episode on the channel. I normally, obviously, for some of you, you know I do the Toxic Tuesday on Tuesday night, and I do the Comic Shop Talk on Friday night. I park cars with Comics Division and the boys talking politics on Monday night, but this is a very unique episode as I talk liberty and metal with David Sanchez of Havoc, and it's going to be a pleasure to bring him on. So I see that 70s rock fan. Looking forward to this. Hey, 70s, appreciate you coming on, and hail to you, my friend. Glad to see you are here. Pope Metallicus the first. What's up, Pope? How you doing, man? Oh, D. Bud Martin. How you doing, dude? Thank you for dropping by, as always. And hey, Stephanie, how you doing? Thank you for coming on in as well. I appreciate it. All right, guys. So for those of you who do not know, our guest here, he has a podcast as well, is titled Riffs or Die, and he talks music, and sometimes he talks a little politics. He's, for some, they may consider him a bit problematic. I know it's very, very, very harmful thing. So I don't know how we're gonna cope with this, but I think you'll survive this stream. It'll be all good, and it's gonna be great. And he's also of the thrash metal realms too. You know, he plays in a band called Havoc, for which he sings and plays a guitar in as well. And he's been doing that since, like, say, somewhere between 06, 08, 09. He'll be able to clarify that for me. He first put out an album called Burn, Time Is Up, and then so on and so forth. The rest was history, per se. And I'll bring him on here so he can tell you guys a little bit about him. Mr. David Sanchez. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Nick.
My pleasure, dude. How you doing lately?
Oh, doing fine as can be during the era of Terra.
No, you're right. It's dude, like every time you think it can't get crazier, it's become like the hold my beer. You think it can't get crazier, or you think there's a new bottom of the barrel, you just have to scrape for more. And somehow it does. It really does.
Yeah, the next month is always saying hold my beer.
It really is. Sometimes I feel like it's getting closer to on the days, or even sometimes even on the hour. But anyways, we'll talk a little bit about Havoc. We'll talk some music, and then we'll talk liberty as well. And I feel like sometimes the two will intertwine with each other because I feel like they have more in common than many tend to realize. So we'll start off with your A&E True Hollywood story with Havoc. So obviously you go back to the mid 2000s, as you would like, I guess, whatever you want to call that decade now, because now we're saying 2010 and so 2000s now. So when you started Havoc, you're the founding member now in your band. Why don't you tell the chat a little about your humble beginnings per se?
Yeah, I started Havoc in about 2004 or so.
2004, okay.
Yeah. I started it just jamming with a guy who played drums and went to my high school. We both loved Metallica and knew how to play a bunch of Metallica songs. So we got together and fucked around and eventually started writing my own riffs and putting together my own songs and realized, like, hey, this is fun. I want to do this more.
Of course.
Things just kind of took off from there, and eventually started touring a few years later. And I've spent most of my life, the majority of my life, the years have been spent touring. Up until the last couple of years, I've been touring very, very heavily since I was about 17 years old. And the band we put out our first 3 records on Candlelight Records. Now we're with Century Media Records. I think we've got one more record obligation with them. And I don't know what we're going to do after that, but the world is our burrito, so we'll see.
The world is our burrito. I love that statement. I've not heard that one before. So
it's Weird Al.
Dude. Oh, is it? Did he really say that?
In that song, Albuquerque, yeah.
Oh God. What's that movie he did? I always forget the title of it. Yeah, I went to a showing where he was there of it. No BS. And it's one of those things, like, it's one of those things but somehow you always forget the name of, and that's one of the. But he was there, and like that was like really weird. And I didn't know he was gonna be it. It was like a really private show. I'm like, whoa, that Al's right there. Like this is weird, but it happened. So no, he's a really cool stand up type of guy, and it was nice to see because obviously the whole meeting your hero saying can be a bit of a conflicting mixed bag, and I can imagine, especially in the last few years, it can have been a bit of a rude awakening of sorts of what you learn as time goes on in life. So when you were getting Havoc going, did you realize off the bat that you wanted to be full on thrash metal? Were there any like detours that you thought about? Were you pondering on anything? Like, what was that journey like to like, okay, we want to do thrash metal? Because obviously you're coming in around time with like Warbringers coming around, Toxic Holocaust is coming around. So I guess they were calling it retro thrash, re-thrash, and obviously Bonded by Blows, another one. There's so many of them. Now, obviously, there's the ones that stand and remain. So did you knew right off the bat what you wanted to be?
Yeah, I just wanted to play fast and heavy. Metallica was a huge inspiration back in the day. Same with Megadeth, Slayer, Overkill, Exodus, Testament, Anthrax.
The greats.
Creator, Sodom, stuff like that. But I was also a fan of like classic rock at that time as well.
Yes.
Punk rock as well. And since then, obviously, my musical horizons have broadened.
Oh, of course, naturally speaking.
Same with everybody in the band. So like our sound keeps getting more eclectic. But in the beginning, it wasn't like hey, we're going to be thrash metal. It was like, I want to play fast and heavy because this is the shit that I like. It just happened to be thrash metal because that's the stuff I fell in love with first. And I at the time that we started, the only other band that I could find like immediately in the very beginning that was kind of similar to us, Toxic Holocaust, Municipal Waste were already around, but ones that were just starting out and about our age, the only other band that I was able to find early on was Evile.
Oh my God, that's a name I haven't heard for a while. They were like everywhere at one point in time. Wow.
Yeah, Evil was like the only other one I could find. So I think we formed and started playing shows and stuff before Warbringer and Bonded by Blood and Gamma Bomb and all of these other bands that people think of when they think of that genre. I think we were one of the first ones to exist because we were playing. I mean, I was the kid at high school that was showing other kids Testament and Exodus and showing them bands that they've never heard of that I was into. And then it caught on. And a few years later, everyone knew who those bands were. But when I was like in high school, I was the only kid that knew, and I was teaching about it.
I know that struggle. Like when I was in high school, like it was interesting because when I was like a freshman, sophomore, I would get into some of these bands. Obviously, were more, I guess you could say, gateway bands. If you didn't know, go beyond that. And then it was weird. Come senior year, all of a sudden I saw these flood of freshmen. I'm like, where were you all my other 3 years of high school who knew this stuff? I didn't understand it. All of a sudden, before I know it, I saw freshmen sporting Priest. I saw them sporting Maiden. I saw Anthrax, Maiden. I'm like, I did this low man journey for 3 years, and now here the incoming wave comes. I'm like, I could have only in my wildest dreams. Like that would have been the coolest thing at the time to like live your high school years doing that. So before I know, I'm like, I gotta get to know these individuals, and it kind of like contradicts the whole senior narrative of the whole, like, you know, going after freshmen, which I was never really into anyway, but it's just like, I want to hang out with these guys because, you know, they were into what I was into. So I'm like, guys, what's going on here? Like, we got a party. I don't know why, but we just got a party just because is you and I, guys like us, we could just see someone wearing at like a certain shirt at 7-Eleven. Before you know it, it's like you guys have already known each other for 5 minutes. You know that flip of a switch feel. So, sure. Yeah, it's one of those things. It really is. We're all like some weird, like unrelated family of sorts because of it, and it's a great circle to be in. So,
that musically speaking, yes, but also I think just all of us we're all related. We're all related to everything on this planet and everything in this universe. We really go back to far enough. We're all related to each other, which is the funniest thing to me about white supremacy. Because
right.
So into their roots and their heritage, like, hey, dude, if you go back far enough, you're black.
Oh yeah. There's always traces of like with the whole ancestry. Like when I've been digging into the whole ancestry stuff on the website, and I was like, you'd be amazed to learn what you have in you that you don't realize. No, it all doesn't make sense, and that is a very great segue into what I want to ask you next about, because I noticed when I got into you guys, so I got into right around when Time Is Up was coming out. You're on a tour coming up with Malevolent Creation at the time. I remember really digging the cool artwork. I bought your CD at an FYE at the time, and I'm like, oh, this is a really cool cover. And I think you guys on Candlelight, I think at the time.
Yeah, that's
if I remember correctly. And I remember hearing the songs. I'm like, okay, Prepare for Attack. That's kind of cool. And I liked how also like I could actually hear the bass too on a metal album. That was like, and that was before you had Nick Shins too. You guys were making bass players prominent and heard before Nick. So to do that, it's like a feat in itself.
It's a powerful instrument, and I always loved way before like Havoc started. I loved that you could hear the bass in Testament and Anthrax and Overkill and Maiden. I love that the bass was like always had a cool tone and was very audible. I love that. It's such a powerful instrument and is often overlooked, especially in metal. A lot of the time in metal, the bass player just mirrors the guitar playing.
Yes. Oh, yes.
You might as well just let the guitar player turn on an octave pedal and just play the songs because the bass player's doing identical shit. We try to not do that, especially more and more on each album. We're more conscious of that. Like, let's try to have the bass line play a bass line and not just play the guitar stuff, because it makes the whole band much more dynamic, and also makes it easier to pick out where the bass is. What is the bass doing? Well, if he's playing something different than the guitars, it's a lot easier to understand.
Yeah, no, it's great because it's not one of those things where you have to like listen really deeply on your headphones to catch it. Like it's prominent, it's there. It's just like it almost like it finds you, which is how it should be. That should be standard. But obviously, as you mentioned, like you might as well just get on the octave and just start shredding, because at times it's just like you might as well have also another guitarist because of how lost in the mix of things it gets. And that's really unfortunate, because like I feel like there would probably be more recognition for bass players within the realms if there was a sound that was heard. So is that a particular, I just realized, and I pieced that together, is that something that has, because obviously the bass player position's been the one that's been your open door position, is that been an issue as far as getting heard, like because of how like you guys are fight for the bass, or at least you fight for the bass? Is that a reason why, one of the contributing reasons why there's been so many bass players? Because it often was like, oh man, he's really fighting for the bass to be heard. Is that something, or has that been other factors?
It's a million other factors. I mean,
other factors. Okay.
We've had a lot of different lineup changes, and it's happened for all kinds of reasons. Pretty much any reason you can imagine under the sun.
Oh God.
We've had people,
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, the good, bad, and the ugly. People got married, they didn't want to tour, they had a job, they couldn't make it, they didn't want to practice, they had drug and alcohol problems, they couldn't get along, they were, just bad attitude. There's all kinds of reasons. Pretty much any reason you could think of that someone would get kicked out of a band for or quit a band for, we've experienced.
Well, you've experienced that. All right. No, I believe it, man. I've seen and heard the stories from a few guys in the scene, so I totally believe it. So I realized right when after Time Is Up came out, obviously you guys were making some waves, you were on a bunch of tours, and then Unnatural Selection had come out, and I had noticed something, not just like the way that it was tonally different, like from some of the more varied songs, but I noticed a shift happening in the lyrical premise, or unless maybe the lyrical premise was always there, maybe I just caught on, or maybe you made it more obvious. But I noticed a lot of the lyrical content at the time. I didn't understand it. And I'm like, is this like a social political message? And this is like, I come from Chicago area. So obviously, I know Reggie's Rock Club. I saw you with Goat Whore there. My first show, I caught you guys live. Was that something that you felt was a shift, or was it something that you felt was always there and you're trying to make it more obvious?
On which record?
The transition from Time Is Up to Unnatural Selection. I feel like there was a shift and change of lyrics. Was it always there, or did you just make it more obvious? Which one was it?
Well, part of me has always been a little rebellious, and I don't like people telling me what to do unless it makes sense. That's been a thing in my life for a long time. However, the big difference between the lyrical content on Time Is Up and Unnatural Selection, between those two albums, I read a lot of books. I started reading a lot, and I read a lot of books and watched a lot of documentaries. When I was about 20 years old, I realized, like, man, I'm way more stupid than I want to be. I started reading books and started listening to people speak and give lectures and watch documentaries. And I started really kind of peeling back some of the layers of the onion of how the world works. And I was already privy to some of this stuff, but I really dove in headlong right around that time, 2011, 2012. And Unnatural Selection came out in 2013.
Yes, it was 2013, remember.
Time Is Up came out in 11. And a lot of it was recorded in 10. So pretty much like after that stuff was tracked, that's when I started really getting into this stuff. And learning this stuff, I could just keep it to myself and write songs about other things, but it dawned on me, like, why would I do that? I want to write about stuff I care about, stuff I think about, things I'm passionate about. And there's already a million metal songs about murder and the devil and war and stuff like that. I'd rather write about other things that I don't really see other bands talking about. And it wasn't a conscious decision to write songs that are unlike what other bands are saying. It was just write things I care about and I actually have something to say.
All right. No, I totally get that feel. So when you were transitioning to the lyrics, like, did you like start to see like immediate blowback from the crowd, people who are catching on to what you were saying lyrically? Because obviously this is around the point in time when, obviously, I guess you could say, I don't know if you know who the Critical Drinker is. He's a very popular YouTuber who dissects movies like crazy, and he likes to call out the message, and he likes to say the message when he's talking about, wokeness, intersectionality, all the infamous buzzwords. Were you noticing some blowback at the time, or was it like, did it come eventually later? Like, because obviously growing up in the metal scene, I felt like I would have thought like individuality and freedom would have been a very prominent thing. And yeah. So that makes two of us. And as you go on later, as you start opening up, I guess, about these topics, you end up realizing, whoa, I'm a needle in a haystack. I stand out in this position. You wouldn't think that. And I kind of threw me off balance a little bit, to a point where I was like, I didn't know how to discuss it because of how opposite everything was. And I started noticing a subverted world a little bit. So I'm just like, how come everyone is like this, particularly in metal? Like, it really contradicted what I would hear about. And then obviously there's even though they're not really metal, but they got some, I guess you could say, metal leanings. But there's an infamous lyric, all too well, called "Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me." But now it's become "Fuck me, I'll do what you tell me." So it really messed with my mind. And when I would start talking about these things, people were like getting up in arms about it. And I was just like, whoa, it took me off guard. Did you feel like you were having any of that blowback from people?
At the time that those lyrics were written or released, I guess, in 2013 on like Unnatural Selection, where I started kind of going down this avenue, trying to, I guess, express my own thoughts while at the same time maybe wake a couple of people up on the way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't really get a lot of blowback. The blowback has been recent.
Oh, now so you're a late bloomer.
And now that people are more sensitive, and now that some of these lyrics, even ones that are like almost a decade old, now some of these lyrics that are almost a decade old are starting to map on to reality today, very obviously. Not just kind of, he's talking about this esoteric weird thing that no one cares about. No, now it's actually starting to map onto reality, and you're starting to see what I was talking about. Now, all of a sudden, the things that I said and have been saying for years are offensive.
So you were like the Babylon Bee, and then the Babylon Bee was starting to become real life. Like, oh crap, we didn't intend for all this to happen.
Yeah, it is kind of the same effect. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the things that I wrote about and are in Havoc songs that I've been screaming my head off about for years have come to fruition. Unfortunately, a lot of Havoc lyrics have become very prophetic, and now they bother people. They didn't used to. They thought I was, I don't know.
Just spouting off whatever.
A lot of these people, I'm not sure they were even listening to what I was saying. But
they're probably just listening to the riffs.
I'm a crazy person. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm out of my mind. I'm unhinged from reality. And I have no idea what's going on. I'm just paranoid and a psychopath. But, but 8 years ago, they were like, fuck yeah, give me liberty or give me death. And now when it comes time to put up or shut up, give me fucking liberty or kill me. Because those are the options. And that's what I've been saying. And they shouted along with me. Now they call that conspiracy theorist kind of talk.
You're such terrorists. What the hell is wrong with you, istophobism? All right, Ken, you need to get off the street. I'm just, Ed. Oh man, no,
I'm going to get your channel taken down.
You're right. I'm going to be the reason. You're going to be the reason why it all ends today. You're as of now, you're my Alex Jones. This is what's going on. You're my Alex Jones. About the globalists. Oh my god. So okay. So I'm painting the picture here. So the blowback happened later on. What was your definitive, or sorry, not your definitive, your first moment where I guess you could say you're starting to be red pill? Was it a book? Was it a particular personality?
Yeah.
What was it, and what was that first layer? What was that first layer when you're peeling the onion, as you like to say?
Falling in love with George Carlin's stand-up.
Really? Ooh, a comedian. Okay.
Yeah, George Carlin really helped shape my worldview and really woke me up and made me understand and realize a lot of things that they don't teach you in school. They'll never teach you in school. And things that are true. They're unfortunate, but they're true. And he really helped crack my brain wide open when I was a teenager. And that kind of, I guess, was really what started opening the floodgates for me getting into other things later.
Nice. Okay, cool. Now, has it besides obviously blowback from fans, has it hurt you on a, I guess, a musical business level, whether it's with labels saying don't talk about this, or with like maybe band members from other bands? You don't need to name names. We don't need to. We're not chasing blabbermouth headlines. But has it gotten you like, oh, we can't tour with Havoc? Has it gotten you any of that?
There's not been anything specifically like we can't tour with Havoc or a label saying, hey, you can't say that. But there's definitely been people, musicians, come out of the woodwork and tell me to shut up and calling me crazy and this, that, and the other. But I just fall back on the same thing, and it's true. I feel comfortable falling back on this. I'm saying the exact same shit I've been saying for like a decade. And now all of a sudden I'm crazy for having these opinions, but before you thought it was cool because you thought you were Johnny Badass Rebel with your leather jacket and your spikes, and now you're just licking boot for the man.
The actual bootlicker. Now it's funny because they call a lot of people who are the conspiracy theorists. They say they're bootlickers, but they're the ones actually doing the bootlick. I've learned it's not a matter of watching what these loonies say, but it's watching what they do. There's a whole lot of that because they'll say one thing and do a whole nother thing a minute later, and they expect you to forget about it. And
of course, yeah.
And the internet has used that to their advantage because they make you forget those things and I don't know if it's something you have or I have, or just the average, human being. To some degree, we have a short attention span on something, and when stuff is always coming out left and right, they expect you to forget that. And it's something like, for me, my big eye opener was, my brother he showed me a video of Tim Pool talking with Jack Dorsey on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And I remember because I knew Rogan was, I didn't know who Tim Pool was. But I learned who Tim Pool was. And it wasn't a matter of how I felt about Tim, but it was a matter of what was being said in that specific video. And they were talking about how, I guess you could say, the terms and conditions are being applied on Twitter and how uneven was. And I watched what was being exchanged. And Tim really put Dorsey to task. And I remember thinking, whoa, these people, what they're saying is bomb dropping information. And all we got in return was tumbleweed in terms of headlines of what was being discussed. And that really was like, that kind of put me in a psych. I was like, whoa, what's going on? And between that, I noticed that. And then what was going on with a particular franchise called Star Wars. And The Last Jedi happened. And I noticed and this was something I didn't pick on until months after the movie had come out. Is my brother approaching by. He's like, hey, did you notice how all the heroes were a diversity group, and that all the villains were men and they were white, besides I think one character, but they're all white men. I'm like, whoa, that it was weird for me. It kind of it was right in front of me, and I didn't know that. It's those little things that over time you start to notice a pattern. It's little by little they give you breadcrumbs and breadcrumbs and breadcrumbs. And then boom, they smack you with something, right? Whoa. And then I couldn't believe it because at the time I'm thinking in my head, how do I process this movie? And then meanwhile, while I'm trying to figure out what I guess don't like about it, I got all these people dude, there's something wrong with you for not liking this movie. How dare you say this? And then I noticed it happening more with Captain Marvel from the Marvel universe, because I've also grown up big into music and metal, but also in the geek world. And I didn't like Captain Marvel in the comics. I didn't like her. I'm like, there's something wrong with this character, and I couldn't pinpoint my finger on it. But then I discovered, I don't know if you heard of him, Young Ripa, Eric July. And
I know who Eric July is.
Look into him. He's actually a guy. He's also in a metalcore band named Backwards. And he said he would name the specific tour, but he said that his band was not allowed to play a particular summer traveling festival because of who he was, of who Eric July was. And I thought about it, I'm like, whoa. And I thought in my head, is it weird? And I'm like, that ideology might be playing a part in everything that's happening, whether you get in a specific circle or whether you want in on some big media company or on a traveling festival. It can't be all like put together. That just sounds crazy. Like it sounds like a movie. It sounds like we're describing like The World Is Not Enough. If you've ever seen The World Is Not Enough, that was like
the Bond movie.
That was the Bond movie with the Mark Zuckerberg type of villain. If you haven't watched it in a while, please rewatch it because when you watch it now, dude, it feels weird. The villain is such a Mark Zuckerberg type of character. I think, oh my god! And this was '97. I don't know if you want to consider it a red pill movie the way They Live is or Demolition Man is.
We Live. That's one of my favorite movies.
So good.
It's practically a documentary. If you the aliens to just really rich, greedy psychopath people, it's a documentary.
Oh yeah. Same with Idiocracy, which was at one point a comedy. At one point it was a comedy.
Yeah.
And now a documentary. If I caught it correctly, I think you got a Star Trek tattoo.
Oh, this is not Star Trek. This
look,
the V from the Havoc.
Oh, from the Havoc album, the recent Havoc album. For a second, I'm like, is he on the Live Long and Prosper too? No, that's the Havoc V. Okay.
Yeah, I got this in Chile back in 2013 or 2014. We were on tour there during this Unnatural Selection tour.
Yeah.
A dude was like, "Yo, I like your band. You guys can get free tattoos."
Like, nice.
Like, what can I get that's really simple that it won't take, this guy a long time to do?
Simple and effective, man. No, it looks beautiful. Actually, one thing I thought maybe that's just the geek in me, but I'm like, is that the Star Trek logo?
Yeah, I've gotten that question many times. It also kind of looks like that UFO. I've seen a UFO.
Oh, really?
Much like this. It was some sort of a big V shape. And it had lights. It had one in the front, and then two here and two here. 5 lights total. And it flew over us, and there was no sound. And I'd been laying out there for a long time staring at the sky and was very familiar with the speed and sound of airplanes. Became very familiar with the speed at which satellites travel. This structure, this whatever it was flying way faster than planes, way faster than satellites, and it was much lower than planes, and it was totally silent. And I don't know what it is, but I've looked it up before, and there are a bunch of other people, and there's even drawings of it and paintings of it you can find online. Other people have seen this exact same kind of structure.
Wow, dude. That's insane.
Yeah, and I couldn't see the outline of the V itself. I could just see the lights, one in the front and then 2 down the sides, kind of in a right, almost like a perfect right angle kind of a shape. And the only reason I know that it had some sort of mass is because you could only see the lights. It was traveling very, very fast, but as it would go across the sky, you could see it like blocking out stars. So it had to have had some sort of a structure. It wasn't just 5 lights, 5 orbs flying formation. It was a part of a structure. I don't know what it was, but I've seen it, and apparently a lot of other people have seen it.
Sounds like an X-Files episode that didn't get filmed.
Yeah,
that's what I'm wondering.
I wish I would have had like an amazing camera with a telescopic lens or something, because it was really, really weird. But, this thing kind of looks like that, but I saw that thing after I had this tattoo, so it's not really.
That is crazy, dude. That's crazy. So my buddy Keely Chow, how you doing, Keely Chow? Says, correction, the world is not enough is 99, tomorrow never dies 97. And I want to add to that correction. I was talking about the flick Tomorrow Never Dies as the one with the prophetic villain. That was the one. So thank you, Keely Chow, for that. I appreciate the clarification on that. Every now and then, us YouTubers and podcasters even unintentionally mess up things as well. That's why we are human beings.
And now we have real life Bond villains.
Yeah, we do. Now, where's our Bond? Where's our Bond at?
Mr.
David?
Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum. That dude straight up looks and sounds exactly like a would-be Bond villain.
Oh, they all do.
He's in charge of a lot of big stuff and rubs elbows with a lot of world leaders.
Oh, trust me, I know. I've got a buddy of mine. we do a stream on Monday night. His name is Comics Division, and we do a thing called Yelling at Parked Cars, because talk about these issues is exactly like that. It's like yelling at parked cars, so that's what it's titled.
Yes.
Yeah, right. It's perfect. And we do it on Monday nights at 9 Central, and me, him, and a few other YouTubers, we get together. We talk about these crazy things world, so we can try and make people more aware. And we got guys from all sorts of different backgrounds. We have guys like us, and then we got some of the regular nerd type of guys. You got just regular traditional like Joe Schmoes who want to be left alone. So I'll say I think you'd fit right in with yelling at parked cars. So
yeah,
if you're ever up for that, like that could be right up your alley as well. But let's get back on the some fun stuff. So Supernaturalist, what like ever been on tour or even at home, and there's like any weirdness that you like caught while you're on tour, like, whoa, that's kind of like freaky?
The coolest thing I've ever seen in my entire life was on tour.
Okay, and what would that be?
Driving, Pete Weber, the drummer, and myself were the only ones awake.
Yeah, Weber.
Everyone else was asleep in the back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just me and Pete awake in the front, middle of nowhere in New Mexico. We were driving north toward Roswell.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just middle of nowhere. There's no cars out, just like pitch black outside. And we saw a meteor in front of us, just going from our left to our right, just it was pretty fucking massive. And we were close enough, and it was so crystal clear enough that we could literally see like black chunks breaking off of it, looking like Oreo cookie dust, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like we could literally see the chunks and like dust breaking off of it, bright orange. And goddamn, I wish we would have had a dash cam. Me and Pete,
wow!
Like, oh my god! Holy shit! Look at that! Everybody woke up in the back and was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" It's not a meteor. And they were like, "Oh god damn it,
dude!
I'm sure we sounded like we were freaking out because something bad happened, but we saw something badass.
No, you saw something awesome, dude. I wish I had seen something awesome like that.
Even to this day, Pete and I are both like, "Yeah, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life."
Wow. Sorry, my mind's just kind of blown by that. It's amazing. Awesome. So our buddy here, Mr. That 70s Rock Fan, another great channel, says, David, what's your favorite tour food?
Favorite tour food? Well, by the way,
if you want to give a few, go ahead. Yo, he's a great guy.
And I'm a big 70s rock fan myself.
Nice.
I think that was the best decade of music, personally. Most experimental, lots of new technology was coming out, and even pop bands were cool.
Oh, they're more creative.
Oh, man, that's a tough question. When I'm on tour, I like to try to go out to local places, support local businesses instead of having Subway or
of course,
whatever.
Someone who actually needs the money.
Yeah, someone who actually needs the money, and I don't know when I'm ever going to be in this town again. Like, I might as well go try some of the local cuisine that I can't find at home. But favorite food to eat on tour. Now, this one's not really for sustenance necessarily, but this one is a good tour trick. It's also good for any road trips. If you're ever feeling kind of sleepy and you want to make sure you stay awake, eat sunflower seeds. Because it keeps your mouth busy. You have to crack the seeds open, so it's like fucking impossible to fall asleep with a mouthful of sunflower seeds.
Dude, I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming. What? Wow.
There's a tour secret there.
There must be. See, I'm not a touring musician. I've got friends who've been in touring bands. Maybe all you all will understand. Wow, I did not see that answer come in. So no, that is crazy. What about the Havoc Burger? Obviously, I live in Chicago area, so obviously I know Kuma's, and you obviously, I'm sure at the very least you're well aware that there was a Havoc Burger at one point in time. Did you try the Havoc? You had to have tried your burger.
Yeah, actually, they asked me what we would want on it, and I kind of gave them a little list of shit that I think sounds really good. It's not on their typical menu, and they did it, and it was fucking awesome. And it's actually permanently on the Kuma's
menu here in Denver.
Oh, also you got a permit in your home state.
Yeah.
Nice.
So it's a burger with bacon, pepper jack cheese, sauteed onions, sauteed mushrooms, sauteed jalapenos, and then like a sriracha aioli.
Oh, I love sriracha aioli, dude. Like I'm a big foodie, so like I'm a sucker for that. That's insane, dude.
Yeah,
that's cool that they asked you guys for like input on it.
Yeah, they didn't just go off and do their own thing. They asked us for some input, and the chef added one thing to it. I'm not sure if they kept it on because it might be hard to keep in stock just for one burger that they're doing. But when it was the burger of the month that they did at all the Kumas, the chef decided to add on like a stick of rosemary, and it was like kind of breaded and deep fried. So there was like fried rosemary on the burger as well. Oh. And when I first went in to try that, I didn't know what to expect with that rosemary. I thought it might kind of blow it for the burger, but it actually made it better.
Isn't that funny how that happens with the food? Like how's it gonna work, and then somehow it happens. Combinations that you don't think would work somehow do. That's I love it when that happens. So my buddy Pope Metallicus, what's up, Pope? Says, Dave, what's the best venue you've ever played?
Well, Father, the best venue I've ever played. That's a tough question. There's a lot of cool ones. You're from Chicago, and I'm not just going to say this because you're from Chicago, but literally, Reggie's Rock Club is one of my favorite venues in the country.
Dude,
one of the coolest places in the fucking world.
No, you're right. And that is what I have considered my home away from home. Like, I know the door guy there. I know the security guys. I know the promoters there. I've met the owner, Robbie, there. He's a great guy. He's got a bunch of dogs. Robbie's a great guy. Like, and they got great wings. They got great tone wings. And it's one of those venues, too, where it's like the metal version of Cheers. Like you walk in, everyone literally knows your name, and everyone's just happy that you're there. And you get a lot of the same faces too. Like it's funny that same crowd is always at Ready's for every show. It's so funny. It's seriously the metal version of Cheers. I love seeing it happen, and I'm glad that's an honor to mention Reggie's because also Shane, the promoter, he's a great guy as well. Shane Merrill, shout out to Shane Merrill.
Hell yeah.
Reggie's I've had some of the best nights to remember, maybe dare I say some to not remember at Reggie's. And everyone out there is super, super hospitable there. It doesn't even just have to be the venue themselves, but just the people attending in the crowds. Everyone's super hospitable. And you can't say that like about every single, obviously you can't because for obvious reasons, not every place is equal, but just maybe it's because I'm more emotionally attached to my area, but just the community around the area is just amazing. It's astounding. And to have it tied to Reggie's is awesome.
Hell yeah, that place rules. They have really good food, 2 music venues, adequate green room. They used to have a record store upstairs. And
I miss it. Record breakers.
For bands to play. They had a merch store. The staff is all cool. We have great shows there. Chicago's such a great rock and roll town. Tons of really good musicians there too. Yeah, Reggie's is just awesome. That's one of our favorite venues in the world to play.
Nice. And that's saying a lot because that's the world, not just within a few states, the country, but though that's saying a lot. So yeah, I've probably been there over 200 shows there just off of there alone. So hey, that works out very nicely and conveniently that I happen to be from the area we're chatting and you're all about Reggie's. Sorry, my brain just blanked on me. Oh my God. What was I gonna say? Oh, so when you got Riffs or Die going, because you're like 60-something episodes into it, like, was the podcast a decision based off of the lack of touring in Havoc, or is it something you've always wanted to do? Like, what is the motivation to get Riffs or Die going?
Well, it's something that I've thought about for a long time, but then when touring kind of evaporated before our eyes, it gave me the perfect spark to actually really do it, not just have it be a thought, but take action on it.
Nice.
On the show, I mean, I talk about music sometimes, but I often talk about current events and give my opinions on that. The title of the show, Riffs or Die, is kind of a double entendre. Riffs, like guitar riffs. I love it. But also riffing is a thing that, comedians do and philosophers do. And riffing on ideas is a real thing. So yeah, I just riff. Often it's by myself, but I think half of the episodes have a guest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun to do. It's a fun way for me to put content out into the world and get an opinion out that's not going to be censored by anyone.
Mm-hmm. 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 Not the popular opinion, the public consensus, whatever they want to call it nowadays, or the approved opinion nowadays. Yes,
approved opinions, protected opinions.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one too. Protected opinions. How much has it affected the band around you? I know you got Reese, you got Pete, and then whoever's on bass at the time. How much has your stuff affected them? Because you would think you'd be the individual, and it's not like those guys aren't going out there spouting off these things. You're the one who's doing that. You would think just because it's you, people just go after you, but sometimes people want to go to others around them just because they want to be douchetarians per se. Has that affected the guys around you?
Well, I have actually heard from them that they get hit up by people that can't handle what I'm saying, so they go and complain to them instead of saying something to me.
Oh, they do the opposite. Oh,
There's a lot of people that are like that. But we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so in some way, what I say does affect them, but it shouldn't. It should be. I don't say any of the controversial things on like the band's page.
No, you keep it personal.
The band's place. I mean, it's in the lyrics. If you really want to figure it out, that's what the band's saying though for the last 10 years. But the things I say on my personal page, I view them as they are my personal things to put up. When people start going after other people based on my opinions, I find that very, very lame, very weak.
Yeah, very indirect, very weak.
Yeah.
Oh, petty's an understatement. So, my buddy Christian here says, "Do you guys plan touring in Canada this summer, Ontario, Quebec?" I mean, and also I was going to ask because obviously touring is such a mixed bag, and I've heard stories of how the process functions. Like I've heard some bands just stay on their bus the entire time. I know guys Zetro from Exodus is I don't want to be on a tour where I have to stay in the bus. I have to go around. What does it look like as far as if touring opens up? Obviously I would imagine you've had to hold on to a steady job since then, and that's gotta be quite the adjustment. That whole process, what does touring look like? Is it for everything to open up, or are you thinking about maybe even something regional? Because obviously you got countries like Canada and Australia.
Canada might be off limits for everybody right now.
Might be off limits. Wow.
I know tons of bands that were scheduled to go there in the last, 4 months, 6 months. They tried to go, couldn't get in. They all had to cancel all their Canadian shows. So I'm not sure there's going to be any American bands going to Canada anytime soon. Their stuff is extremely strict over there, and not just strict, but nonsensical. The government there is absolutely out of control and not even making sense.
Nope.
And not following even their own edicts that they give, which I have a huge problem with, but that's irrelevant to us touring there. But I don't foresee us being able to get into Canada anytime very soon. Would I love to play there? Absolutely. I love playing in Canada. I love the Canadian people. I like playing shows up there. I like just driving through it. It's a beautiful country. The middle of it is a lot like the middle of the U.S. It's just flat plains, but the mountainous areas, and it's a really gorgeous place. Western Alberta and British Columbia, very, very beautiful spot. But yeah, I don't know when we're going to get to Canada again, to be quite honest. And as far as touring in general, at the moment, like you've commented, we don't have a bass player at the moment. So there's that on top of just things that are still kind of up in the air. They're not looking super promising. And I already told my bandmates, there's no fucking way I'm going to go and play a show where they're going to be restricting access to people that want to come see us play based on
certain things.
Yeah, they're based on their medical status. I absolutely will not play a show like that. It goes everything that I stand for, and just as a moral It will not align with my moral code whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. No, it's good.
That takes some of the venues off of the table immediately. But then on top of that, just like governments are out of control right now. Mayors, governors, they're out of their fucking minds, some of them. And if we were to go on tour, Havoc's fairly successful, but we're not Megadeth.
No,
we're not Slipknot. If we go out and we miss 3 shows because the mayor's locked down or governor went crazy or whatever, if we lose 3 shows, we're going home with hardly any money in our pocket.
Dude, and that's just 3 shows.
Right. And if Slipknot goes and misses 3 shows, Korn misses 3 shows, they're still going to go home with $500,000 in their pocket. They're not really tripping that hard. Yeah, it sucks, but they're still going to be very successful. A band like us, we miss a few shows like that. That's a really big deal. And this is where everyone in the band is completely on the same page. Not worth it for us to go out and risk losing shows. And so we're kind of just in a holding pattern right now, waiting for things to be a little bit more logical and, actually trusting science, not trusting science.
Yes, actual science. True. No, I mean, and I can imagine for a fine gentleman like you, and whether it's you or Phil Abonte from All That Remains there, or Eric July, as I mentioned earlier, it's got to be really. It had to have put you off at first when you grew up on a generation or a few of music where it was organically rebellious, and now you've seen it become the inverse of that. As I mentioned, the whole "fuck me, I'll do what you tell me." Like, has that thrown you off guard? That like metal and punk of all the genres, because you've seen like everything conform, whether those major institutions or sports, it's all converted. I would have thought, like, especially like in metal, you have the metal god being a gay man. You can't get more organically diverse and, I guess, dare I say, inclusive than that. And yet here we are bending over for every major institution. Did you ever feel like this is the one thing they could never touch? And did you feel like you saw it coming? Where are you at on this one?
Well, I definitely did not see it coming. And I think a lot of metal people that are on the side of freedom and independence and people having bodily autonomy and thinking for themselves, people that are in the metal world thinking that way, I think we're all just in shock over how quickly fans, and not just fans, but bands, even bands that sung about anti-authoritarianism, have bent over and opened up their beehole to be abused by the man and the powers that be. All these bands that have sung about anti-corruption and anti-corporatism and anti-government and anti-authority, and they are all fucking shilling for this multi-billion-dollar industry that's trying to force a product into your arm. And it's just fucking disgusting and embarrassing. I never would have expected it, but nowadays when you look at it, like, if people were trying to identify, if our enemies were trying to identify which Americans they would really need to like work on massaging to get them to actually fall in line, metalheads would be some of the last people on their list. They'd be like, oh, they'll drink the Kool-Aid anytime you present it. Just scare them a little bit, and they'll scatter like cockroaches. It's fucking disturbing, and it's really disgusting to me as someone that grew up in this scene and loved this kind of music, especially largely for the message. The message was, like you said, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. And you said it. How did you phrase
it's now reverted to fuck me, I'll do what you tell me now. Now they're taking the lube. And
I'll say it's even different than that. It's not fuck me, I'll do what you tell me. It's fuck you, do what they tell you. Because
you're right.
That are on this fucking authoritarianism train, and they don't like to think that they are, but they really are. If you want control over someone else's life, it's not affecting you. You're an authoritarian. Sorry to break it to you.
No, you're right.
But I think it's fuck you, do what they tell you, because it's not just, fuck me, I'll do what they tell me. They also want to push that. If I have to do it, then everybody has to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge difference. You know, if you want to fucking, and I'm all for it, for freedom. You want to do something, go ahead. As long as you're not infringing on the rights of others, knock yourself out. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a moment that you start switching it over to, I did it, so now you have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I have a big problem. And that's where a lot of people that are freedom-minded have a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Your rights end where mine begin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it doesn't make sense. Like, especially like when you see a lot of people call themselves like oppressed or suppressed or the marginalized or the minority, but yet they're being backed by all these major institutions. Like, how does your mind not piece that together? Like, where are you psychologically where you're saying that you are, the oppressed and marginalized, but yet who doesn't back your ideology? Like, we've gotten everyone from Facebook and Twitter up to including Coca-Cola saying, try to be less white. Like, who's not included? And you want to sputter off that you're this like person who's the one being harmed in the world. Like, that doesn't line up. Like, and once again, it's not to make another reference, but it really does feel like you're yelling at parked cars. Like, the conversation is like, it's hard to have that. And it's always made me think, if I want to try have that conversation, because every now and then you get in, you find someone who will always say, hey, like, I agree with you, but I can't say something like that, whether it's a friend of yours or someone in the music scene. There's a lot of those
people like that.
Yep. There's a lot of them. And and here's what I say to all of them. I'm like, hey man, that's awesome. That's great. I don't care if you and I are the same political ideology. I don't care if you are the same religion. Like that, I don't care. I'm judging you as your own individual human being, your own human being. That's what I want. Man or woman, I don't care. That's your individual thing. Like, that's great that you feel that way, but it's also, and I'm not saying this to put pressure on you or less you, but it's because you don't say anything that our side was winning. And I used to always think, I used to be of the mind that just to not say anything. It wasn't in terms of the fall in line. It's more of a just leave me alone mentality. But I realized later on in life, it's because I thought of just leave me alone that people like this got away with the stuff that they did. They passed the odd things in certain big bills. Like, all that stuff they were doing is because I ignored it and said, just leave me alone. I realized how much that mindset backfired at me, and now I'm paying for it because they took advantage of that, walked through the doors, snuck in through the theater, they got into the seats, and they started taking advantage of every aspect of life and culture that they could. They didn't say, wow, this is off limits, we shouldn't touch that. No, they just said, no, we can go for this, and we're going to go for every aspect. If they're going to ignore it, we're just gonna go for it. Do you feel like you were of the same mindset as well, that just leave me alone, or did you feel like you always need to get involved?
Well, I do want people to just leave me alone.
Yeah, ultimately, in a perfect world, yes.
Yeah, that's more or less what I'm singing about. It's what I'm writing songs about. It's what I'm saying on the internet. It's like there's people that want to control over your life. Mm-hmm. You should be in control of your life.
Yes.
I want people to be left alone. I don't want totalitarians marching into people's personal lives and making decisions for them. I think that's wrong. I think that's a form of not just control, but it borders on a form of violence. It's force. Force, as my buddy Jason Bassler from the Free Thought Project said. He said, how did he phrase it? He said, force is extreme.
Yes.
Our resistance to this kind of stuff is not extreme. It's not an extremist view. Force is extreme. You're going to try to force anyone to do anything. That's extremist. But, there are a lot of people, and I've heard from them, I mean, peers in the music world and stuff, that are like, yo, I totally agree with what you're saying and keep it up. But they don't say anything themselves. And some of them have even said, why? They don't want the fucking headache or the blowback that comes with it. The reason I started speaking out very vocally, especially on social media and stuff, in the last year, is because I was holding my tongue for a year. I didn't say anything, and I would notice that things kept getting worse. So I was like, fuck this, dude. I'm not going to sit in fear of these people and their judgment. Fuck these people.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really, truly. The people that are authoritarians and want to tell everybody else how to live, fuck these people. And I stopped caring, and I started saying what I really thought. And, since then, I've lost 2,500 people on Instagram, but I don't care. I really don't care, because we're coming to a fork in the road very clearly where you have two choices. You can go down the path of freedom, or you can go down the path of slavery. Which one do you want to go down? I know which road I'd like to go down, and I'm trying to encourage other people to like shake them a little bit. Hey, we have a fork in the road here. You got to choose one way or the other. Freedom or slavery. Which way do you want to go? Coming with me, or are you going to literally be my enemy? Because if you are going to be actively working against the interests of freedom and free people, I'm sorry, we're not on the same page. You are my fucking enemy. You are an enemy of true progress. You are an enemy of freedom. You are an enemy of liberty. You are an enemy of a free society. You are an enemy of free speech. You are on board with all of the authoritarianism shit, and you're cool with censorship and all this stuff. I don't know where we're going to see eye to eye. We still have plenty of things in common. We're still human beings. We still have a lot in common. But if you are going to literally be against the ideas of liberty and freedom for everyone to live in a more just, safe, free, sane society, you are an enemy. You're an enemy of progress in the most true sense of the term.
Like actual progress, genuine progress, not this progress where it's actually regression.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the left has been very, very clever with the way that they use language.
Yes.
Progressives stand for communism, basically.
Oh, yes.
You know, they call themselves liberals. A liberal is someone that's open-minded and completely open to new ideas and basically wants everyone to live and let live and just like do whatever they want. That's what a liberal is in the classical definition.
Classical, traditional liberalism. Yes.
A traditional liberal is someone like you or I who's like, just leave me the fuck alone. Like, I don't care what you do. Just don't bother me. That's what a liberal is. They're very, very clever with this. And Malcolm X talked about this. He said that the modern liberal is like a fox, you know, not like a wolf. A wolf will let you know, like, hey, I'm a wolf. I'm bad. I'm going to eat you. A fox will act like they're your friend first, and then they'll fucking kill you. Now, this is very, very clever, because when you really think about this, the world is made of language. Language defines our reality and what we observe. And if you can change the definitions of words and you can change the meanings of words, you can literally alter the fabric of reality.
Yes. This is something I've learned recently. I read a book called Speechless Controlling Words, Controlling Minds, written by Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire. I'm a little bit mixed on his personal politics, but I was looking at his book for that. I was looking at for what he's telling me about political correctness. And I'm like, and he mentioned pretty much what you said, spot on. Like, you know, when they control the language, they can control what can and can't be said. And sometimes and it's, once again, they're saying things but mean other things. And that's when I've learned what the term misinformation nowadays means. It's not about what the information is. It's now just a matter of who is saying the information. You could be a guy with glasses with a voice that talks like this, and I can say anything, and they won't get fact checked, and I won't get none of that stuff. But if I'm just Joe Schmo, me, there's gonna be issues. The pitchforks come out, and I get these little disclaimers attached to my names.
That's right.
And it's really crazy. And I thought about, okay, what if there is people out there who want to have this conversation and they're trying to figure out how to start? Because obviously starting is never easy. It's not going to be something. It's kind of like learning to play an instrument. You're not going to learn it overnight. It's a process you got to go through. What is if you had someone who's saying, David, I agree with your stuff. I want to learn how to articulate my thoughts, my argument, my whatever per se. Where do I start? Whether it's through a book, a podcast, what are a few things I could start with to start my journey into expanding my mindset? What are a few things that you, David Sanchez, would recommend?
I would recommend getting into philosophy, whether that's reading books or that's just literally going on the internet and looking at memes of quotes from famous philosophers.
Thomas Sowell.
I think, yeah, Thomas Sowell is great. But even the ancient philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Aristotle, Seneca, a lot of the Stoic philosophy is what I'm a big fan of. But I would start with that. I would start listening to comedians. Some of them are big truth tellers. They're not just being funny. They're also speaking a lot of truth. Some of those people I would say are like George Carlin, Joe Rogan, Dave Chappelle, Patrice O'Neill, R.I.P. Same with Greg Giraldo, rest in peace. Yeah, some of these comedians were bigger truth tellers than any news talking head you're going to see on the TV. But I would also listen to podcasts like Riffs or Die, or listen to
Riffs or Die. No, Riffs or Die is cool, man. It's cool because you bring on people who are like-minded like you, but you will also bring on some opposite people. Like I listened to the episode some moons back. It wasn't that many moons back, but I guess just a few. You had Doc Coyle on, aka God Forbid, and God, what's that band he's in now? Bad Wolves. And that's a very opposite mind. And you've shown that you can still sit down and have conversations with opposite minds.
I can absolutely entertain someone's ideas without fully embracing and accepting them. Now, one thing that is funny about the Doc Coyle interview. So after that was done, we both posted it up on our platforms. I always do an intro and an outro for the interviews, and he does the same.
Yes, you do.
So on his post of that same interview, he basically said that he was trying to bait me into like getting into a debate. Like he was trying to like pull me in to really get me like going, jab for jab, tit for tat in the conversation with him. I didn't really want to go there. I mean, like, it's the first time I'd ever really talked to the guy. So I don't want to, like, get into a pissing match here. Yeah. But after hearing that, I was like, damn, man, like, if you want to have a debate about free speech, because this is largely where we disagreed. And I told him after the fact, like, if you want to have a debate, I am absolutely into it anytime, anywhere. Let's do it. Because, I was trying to just have a conversation, be cordial, and it is enjoyable to hear other people's perspective because
of course,
you get more perspective for yourself. But yeah, he did say that he was trying to bait me into an argument, and I hit him up later. I was like, "Yo, if that's what you want, let's do this."
Yeah, no need to dance around. Just say, man, just say the words. Let's have that conversation. And I'm glad you mentioned it because you should always question everything. You should question even yourself at times because it's easy to get into the, what's the word here? I don't want to say echo chamber, but down the tunnel. You get tunnel vision when you're deeply entrenched. So you get tunnel vision where sometimes you may, misunderstand something for a split second. You got to question you're saying. You got to make sure your head is still there. You're still operating and functioning correctly because you could get deep down into the well and before you know it you might think about more than just frogs being gay. So you got to keep yourself balanced. It's very, very important to keep yourself level-headed and balanced and learn to have these tough conversations. And I always try to learn what other people are saying because I feel like if I'm confident in my own argument, why would I be terrified of hearing what someone else has to say that is of the opposite mind? If you really have conviction and what one says, you should have no problem hearing what they're saying. Like you got to be open to hearing it.
That's a great point that people need to to understand, wrap their head around a little bit better. People that want censorship, you're not proving. There's that old saying. I can't remember who said it, but it's something to the. It might have been J.R.R. Martin. Do that. It's something to the effect of when you silence a man, when you cut out a man's tongue, you don't tell the world that you fear what he might say.
Yeah.
No, I'm fucking up this quote, but
it's okay.
Hold on.
Let it click.
I don't have by silencing someone, you're not proving them wrong. You're proving them that you're afraid of what they're saying.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Exactly what you were just talking about. If someone's got convictions and they think that they're right, They should be the most open to debate, because then they can be like, oh, hell yeah, I can show all these people like why I'm right and make them think the way I do, and get all these conspiracy theorists and idiots to see the light. But it is interesting with a lot of protected opinions or mainstream narratives that have been pushed out recently. There's no questioning it.
Oh yeah,
Fauci will not debate anyone.
Nope. That's why you'll never see him like in the same room as Robert Malone. As much as I would love to see that, and I would actually give him a little credit. To be fair, if he actually did do it, I would give him credit.
Yeah, he won't.
He won't do it
because he'll get obliterated, because he knows what he's pushing is bullshit. If he knew that what he was pushing was absolute 100% truth, irrefutable, he'd be like, hell yeah, I'll debate you anytime. Let's do this on national television. We'll make sure everyone in the country sees it, and I will destroy you with the facts.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he doesn't have that kind of information or confidence in his stance. So he refuses to debate people, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, and that's supposed to be the genuine beauty of what actual science is to debate and contest ideas and exchange, what is and what isn't, and that is what's supposed to actually make it cool, fun, and interesting. Like, I love going to science museums. I love learning about space. I love UFOs. I listen to some exozone stuff from time to time too. It's fun to listen to. It makes you wonder. Of course, I was a big X-Files fan, and I love delving into like, we can't be the only ones out there. Like, there's gotta be more to life. And the fact that now all of a sudden we used to be so imaginative and forward thinking and like, hey, how far can our country or our world can progress? Now it's just like, now we're at a stop sign and we do not pass. We're at a red light that will not change lights. And that's unfortunate, because we could learn some really cool things. And now our minds our potential is not being unleashed. And in a way it's going to be unleashed now is we have to do it ourselves now. We can't have it be presented to us now. We have to go out and do our homework as well, whether it's via space or science or even music or anything nowadays. Nowadays, we have to do all the creating ourselves. And it's almost like we have to create almost like a parallel economy of sorts. And I know that's complicated.
That's
because,
correct.
It's as complicated as it is. But it almost feels like is what's necessary, because all these outlets have been taken over by a very extreme ideology. And yeah, it's a lot of work, and it's going to take a lot of years for a pendulum to swing back the other way. But I feel like it needs to get done sooner, because the longer it takes, the more left it goes great. And if the pendulum swings back the other way, the last thing we want is the opposite version of the same thing, like the ultra right version of SJW or intersectionality or any of that. We got to find balance, and maybe starting a parallel economy, whether it's via music or social media outlets. Hopefully that'll try to keep it more centered, or at least as close to center as possible. Obviously, nothing is absolute, nothing is perfect, but we could damn sure try at the very least.
We could do a lot better than what we're doing now. And I think you're completely right, though, that starting sooner than later is what we really need, because I say this all the time. It's never going to get easier to stand up to tyranny.
Nope.
Right now, you can do little baby steps. It's a little thing. It's not going to get easier. It's going to get harder to put your foot down and stand up. So why not do it now while it's easy? Yeah. And also, I kind of sense that you were somewhat in a roundabout way saying this, that no one's going to come and save us. We have to save ourselves.
Yep.
I really do believe that to be the case. It's up to us. No one's going to come and save us.
Yeah, we don't got a Superman that's going to come around. We got to stop being Lois Lane. We got to be Superman, and we got to damn sure do something about it.
That's right.
Stop waiting. We can suck on our thumbs all day, but that shit ain't going to change, brother.
Being passive and doing nothing is not going to make these totalitarian and would-be dictators that are kind of pseudo-running shit and want more power. Sitting on your hands and doing nothing is not going to make them stop. You're never going to comply your way out of tyranny. That's not how it works. That's never how it has worked, and it's never how it's going to work.
Nope. It will never be like that. No, I agree, man. So we're gonna do one more question, and we're gonna read some super chats.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. musically, whether it's metal or even non-metal, what are some of the cooler, weirder things you're discovering out there? I imagine you gotta be always listening to something, whether it's new or old. Like I'm always looking for good music, especially as long as it's like I love discovering hidden treasures. I think that's one of the good things about YouTube is the discovering of hidden treasures, and that's something I always give them credit for. Is that discovering of that? Is there anything out there that you're hearing that I'm like, whoa, like this was really cool, this is ahead of its time, or where was this in my life or in everyone's life? Is there anything out there? One band, two band?
Man, there's so much music that I love and I respect that's not metal that people wouldn't expect me to listen to. But
say whatever you want. Nothing's off limits here. So
I discovered a metal band not too long ago that's pretty rad. They sound kind of like Power Trip mixed with Slayer. They're called Enforced.
Oh yeah, I've heard of
cool.
Enforced. Yeah,
people should check that band out. Enforced.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I mean, I listen to a lot of stuff that's old. I'm pretty out of the loop with what's
that's
going on.
What's good? What's good that's old then?
Tons. There's
tons. There's tons.
But lately, I've been listening to Thin Lizzy.
Oh, of course.
A lot of Thin Lizzy and a lot of Chet Atkins.
Ooh, okay, there you go. The man has spoken, guys. David Sanchez, Chet Atkins, Thin Lizzy. Of course, you're not gonna go wrong with Thin Lizzy. And there's more to those artists than just the singles, guys. It's kind of like judging. It's kind of like judging Soundgarden off Black Hole Sun. There's so much more. Listen to an album. You realize, oh hey, and I have accidentally misjudged, more popular bands because I've judged them off the hit. And then you all see when you actually listen to a whole album, right? Holy crap, this is actually damn good.
I think my favorite Thin Lizzy record is Renegade.
Oh, yes.
People haven't listened to a full Thin Lizzy record before. Maybe start with that one. That one's my favorite. But Jailbreak is also excellent.
Of course. Excellent. All right. So let me get Manowar 665, the neighbor of the beast, for 665 says the long march through the institutions will leave nothing unmolested in its wake. Gatekeep the fuck out of everything, brothers. Hey, we're trying, man. I mean, between the guy in the band and me being the fan of this genre of music, we can only hold so much of the line. We need more. We need more strength in numbers, but hopefully we'll get there. And that 70s rock fan for $10 says, great show, buddy. Dave is a fantastic guest. Yes, he has been. Yeah, and I appreciate that, 70s, and thanks for your continued support, my man. And my good buddy, Toxic Man Flu. Hail Nickweiser, you've got to get this guy in Yelling at Park Cars. Hey, I'll ask him when we're done. And if he's open for it, I'm sure Comics will have no problem. You heard it live on stream. So we'll pass on to Comics. It'll be great. So, yeah. Mr. Dave, this has been fun to talk about all the music and liberty. And is there any final messages, thoughts that you want to plug in, and also anything you got coming up you'd like to share? Share both. Where's thoughts and messages, or you got anything you got coming up on Riffs or Die, or even with Havoc? Why don't you just say whatever you want for the next few minutes?
Well, if people want to check out the band, it's Havoc with a K. HAVOK. We went to public school, so no, it's with a K because the logo looked better than with a C.
It does. It does.
But yeah, if people want to look up Havoc, spell it wrong. Our last album is called V. It came out May Day of 2020, so May 1st, 2020. And that record came out right in the middle of the prison-style lockdown on the civilian population of America. And a lot of people thought that it was written about the Rona, and it was not. The entire record was finished being recorded in September of 2019, so well before we'd ever heard of such a thing, even before Event 201 took place. So none of these lyrics were written about that. They just unfortunately happened to map onto reality a little too closely. So if you're going to listen to our last record, V, I would suggest keeping that in mind, that it was definitely just seeing writing on the wall. It was not written about this. Unfortunately, just happened to be relevant. But the podcast, Riffs or Die, I try to do like one a week. I have guests on sometimes I don't. But in any case, I try to have interesting conversations or interesting monologues about current events. I talk about history. I talk about philosophy. Talk about music. Talk about books, movies, bands, artists.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love The Simpsons as well.
Yes.
But
oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just want people to. Here's the thing: I don't want everyone to think like me.
No, we don't
I
need
just
that.
want people to think.
Yeah.
And I think it's wise to really scrutinize and question things that you're told. And like you mentioned earlier, I echo the same thing. I say it all the time. I question even my own beliefs on a regular basis. I think it's wise to reevaluate. Why do you believe certain things?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's before you take anything as gospel, I really think you should scrutinize it and maybe look for alternative information, because everyone seemed to have been on the same page 5 years ago. The mainstream corporate media is a bunch of lying bullshit. And now all of a sudden, that's what everyone's tuning into and believing. So, let's really take a look in the mirror, people.
All right.
Try to figure things out for ourselves and think for ourselves and think critically. But you asked earlier about where's a place that people can start to try to start pulling apart this giant shit show. One resource that I really love, I had just discovered him last year, and I can't believe I had not heard of him sooner. The guy named James Corbett.
I know who James Corbett is. Yeah.
James Corbett is an amazing researcher. He's super well read. He investigates a lot of stuff before he presents information. But he also, anything that he talks about on any of his episodes, he puts in the description all of the links to the proof of what he's talking about. He has the show notes, as he calls them, and he puts links to literally all the documentation, all the information that he's talking about, so you can see that what he's reporting to you is not just made up bullshit or just his opinion. It's real stuff, verifiable stuff that you can look up for yourself. So if someone wants to start cracking their mind open to what may really be going on and see an alternative perspective that's very well researched and accurate, I would highly recommend people check out the Corbett report. James Corbett.
All right, you heard Dave, guys. That's awesome, dude. Hey, thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, and I have a feeling this is not going to be the last time we do this. I feel like this may be the start of some stuff down the line. Hopefully, obviously I know you got Havoc and you got Riffs or Die, but obviously we'll talk about getting you on Yelling at Park Cars. So I think we'll have quite a future together. And if you're ever in Illinois, I'd love to have some juicy burgers, or if you want pizza, I'd be down to do that too. And my buddy Pope, come on, Pope, dude, you're too nice to me. Now let's see what did the Pope Metallicus do here? What did that man do? Pope Metallicus for $20 says, "You're right. Hell, I judge Jewish priests by their hits, and now they're my favorite band. Also, hail Dave and hail Havoc."
Thank you.
Yeah,
I mean, the last thing I would want to say to everybody on this thing and watching in the future, wherever you may be, whenever you may be, just think for yourself and question everything, even your own beliefs, and just try to leave the world a little bit nicer than the way you found it, and we're all going to be okay.
Agreed. And guys, for everyone in the chat, I put in the caption, but in case you don't want to go through caption, I'll make it a little accessible. This is his YouTube channel right here, Riffs or Die. This YouTube channel, sub here. And he also has a Patreon as well, so you can check out Patreon. I know some of you guys use Patreon in the chat, so check that out. And if you go on his band's website, when you go on the website, it's got all the links to the socials and then some. So you can easily connect with Havoc. They're very accessible, so getting a hold of them is not an issue. So you can support David, you can support his band, or you can support all of the above. Either way, it's going to help the boy out. And once again, sir, I appreciate the time and I appreciate it. Just have a nice little discussion and going at it. And to the chat, you will all have a good rest of your day. And I'll see you all tonight for Yelling at Park Cars, a comics division. And tomorrow night, Toxic Tuesday, we'll be talking the Bill Murray classic, Stripes.
Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed that. Thanks a lot for sticking around until the very end. I really appreciate it. Make sure to rate the podcast. If you want to support further, go to riffsordie.com, pick up some merch, or go to patreon.com/riffsordie and sign up as a patron. That's all I got for now, friends. We got another killer interview coming up early next week, so look forward to that. I'll talk to you all in a few days here. Till then, take it easy. And don't forget, consider, what are you going to do if they bring that bullshit back? You going to put your foot down and tell them to fuck off? Or are you going to accept it and bend over again? Food for thought. Talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.